Good afternoon. This is Hideaki Iwasaki. I'm just checking if the audio is working well.
Yes, good afternoon.
Yes, Maria, sorry, please.
Yeah, it's okay. We can hear you very well, Mr. Iwasaki. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just turn the camera on and
Yes, looking great, sir.
okay.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. This is Dr. Bilal from Rawalpindi, Pakistan Frontier Work Organization.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the workshop.
Thank you.
Hi, Rika-san. Good afternoon. How are you?
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining Iwasaki-san. And then thank you very much to all participants here. We have still a few minutes to go, but I would like to share with you some house rules before we start the session. First, please stay on mute when not talking. If you have any question, please post the chat box during the introductory session or the country presentation session. And then during the Q&A session, the last session, you may use the function, the raise hand, which is available at the bottom of the screen. Second, please choose your preferred language, either English or Russian, using the interpretation button at the bottom of the screen. Third, please choose your presentation language using the view option, which appeared at the top of your screen. My colleague, Ms. Pira, is now showing the introductory slide now, so probably most of you can see the view option, the middle of the top area. Fourth, to ensure the timekeeping in a proper manner, we will give you we will ring a bell to the presenters 5 minutes and 1 minute before each session. So when we reach the 5 minutes to go, I will ring once, and then when we reach just 1 minute to go, then I will ring twice. So I appreciate the presenter's attention. And the fifth, as you already noticed, this workshop is being recorded, and then recording and then all country material will be uploaded to the CAREC website as we do for the other CAREC event. So lastly, welcome to the knowledge sharing workshop, the RAMS today. We will start very soon. In the meantime, please stay online, and at the 2 o'clock in the Islamabad, Dushanbe time, at 1 o'clock in the Tbilisi time, we will start the workshop. Thank you.
Hi, Rika. You may now formally open.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So good afternoon and good evening. Welcome to the knowledge sharing workshop on road asset management system today. I'm Rika Ide, Transport Specialist, Asian Development Bank, and the moderator for this workshop. Although I mentioned earlier, I would like to remind you the five house rules before we start the workshop. Please stay on mute when not talking. If you have any question, please post the chat box during the introductory session or the country presentation, or you may use the function, the raise hand during the Q&A session. We will collect them during the Q&A session as much as time allowed. Second, please choose your preferred language, English or Russian, using the interpretation button which is available at the bottom of the screen. Third, please choose your presentation language using the view option which is available at the top of the screen. Fourth, which will appear when the presentation starts. Fourth, to ensure the timekeeping in a proper manner, we will ring the bell to the presentators 5 minutes and 1 minute before the session ends. And lastly, this workshop is being recorded, and the recording and the presentation material will be uploaded to the CAREC website. So we appreciate your kind attention to those five items during this workshop. So we will start now the workshop. So first, I would like to invite Mr. Hideaki Iwasaki, Director of Transport Communication Division, Central and West Asia Department, for his opening remarks on behalf of ADB. So Director Iwasaki, the floor is yours. Thank you. Iwasaki-san, mic.
Hideaki, I believe you're on mute.
Yeah, Iwasaki-san, your microphone is mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry, Rika-san. Thank you for reminding. Yeah, this happens. Okay, then I'll start again. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to welcome you all to the knowledge sharing workshop on road asset management systems for participants from Georgia, Pakistan, and Tajikistan. And just to add to the introductory remarks, I'm new to this division, and this is the first time I'm meeting with many of the officials from these countries. So I'm quite excited to be part of this event. Over the past decades, CAREC countries invested significantly in constructing and rehabilitating regional roads for ensuring international connectivity. Issues arose, however, relating to the sustainability of such investments and how countries can secure resources required to ensure sustainability of the investments. And one measure to address these issues would be the strengthening of road asset management practices, particularly through the establishment of road asset management systems to enable the countries to predict service levels of each roads and estimate the funding level required for maintaining the roads and optimizing the resource allocation. This has been highlighted in the CAREC Transport Strategy 2030, which was endorsed at the CAREC Ministerial Conference in 2019. The strategy emphasizes an immediate need for strengthening road asset management and optimizing the allocation of maintenance fundings in the CAREC countries. In recent years, the ADB has supported various road development projects in the CAREC countries, which also covered road asset management, enhancement of facilities and technical equipment for road maintenance, training and capacity development, among many other activities. Within the CAREC framework, our team developed guides and manuals to assist CAREC countries on road asset management, performance-based maintenance, and tolling of roads. Recently, ADB has conducted an assessment of the status of road asset management systems in the CAREC countries. This report is expected to be published within this year, and we hope that this will help the CAREC countries gauge their progress and challenges in implementing road asset management practices vis-a-vis the best international practices and the progress in other CAREC countries. Further, this will help the countries address access and prioritize their road asset management development initiatives to formulate a better approach to supporting those CAREC countries which may need assistance from various sources, including from ADB. To leverage this movement, we consider that it is essential that the countries learn from other countries' experiences and reflect them to further their RAM's development. In response, we designed this first pilot event with a view to facilitate knowledge sharing on RAMs and invited 3 countries, Georgia, Pakistan, and Tajikistan, which have individually made progress in their RAMs development. This workshop consists of 3 sessions. The first session will be led by Mr. Thomas Hertz and Mr. Serge Cartier, who will go through ADB's ongoing assistance in road asset management in CAREC countries and discuss major findings from the recent assessment of the country's road asset management. In the second session, we will invite 3 countries' representatives. Mr. Shurov Yakub Zoda, Ministry of Transport, Tajikistan. Mr. Ikram Saklain Haider, National Highway Authority, Pakistan. And Mr. Georgi Yaparidze, Road Department, Georgia. The third session is a panel discussion of the 3 representatives, which will be facilitated by Mr. Cartier. Again, I greatly appreciate all of you taking time to participate in this knowledge sharing event, and I look forward to your active participation. And I hope you will get useful takeaways for your agency's further strengthening of road asset management. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Iwasaki, for your opening remarks. Before we move to the discussion session, we would like to take the group photo. If you don't mind, please kindly turn on your camera, and then we will do some screenshot. Okay. We have the two slides, so probably we move to another. Okay.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
One,
Give it small.
one, another. Marianne, shall we move to the second one?
Yes.
Okay. We don't know who will be in the first one or second one. Please let us try. 1, 2, 3, smile. I don't know the smile is the right word before this. Anyway. Okay, we done?
Yes,
Okay,
we're done.
so, yeah, thank you very much for your kind cooperation. So please let us move to the first session. Okay, So in the first session, as Director Iwasaki already mentioned, we will invite Mr. Thomas Hart, Senior Transport Specialist, ADB, and Mr. Serge Cartier, ADB Road Asset Management Consultant. The two will discuss the recent ADB's assistance relating to ramps in the CAREC country context. So Thomas, Serge, over to you. Thank you.
All right, Rika, thank you very much. And also Director Iwasaki, thank you very much for already giving an overview. I will share my presentation. Can you see? Can you see the presentation?
Yes, Thomas, go ahead.
Okay, how do I get to the, that's a bit difficult. Let me see, because I cannot get to my, oh, here. All right, I hope you can see the presentation and can hear me well. Again, my name is Thomas Herz. I'm a Senior Transport Specialist with ADB. And over the last few months or year, worked closely with Serge Cartier van Diesel on an ongoing road asset management effort we are undertaking within our division. And Director Iwasaki already made a reference to it. I wanted to just very briefly present you an overview of ADB's activities in road asset management. I will keep it brief so that there is sufficient time for Serge to expand on the findings of the latest activity. As Director already mentioned, all this is happening under the umbrella of the CAREC Transport Strategy 2030. And as already mentioned, considerable investments had been made and are still being made in improving, rehabilitating, and building highways. However, the management of these new and old road assets remains a challenge. And CAREC Transport Strategy 2030 pays high attention to this fact by establishing effective and efficient practices of road asset management across the CAREC region. Some of the key premises of road asset management: preventive, knowledge-based maintenance extends the road asset life without capital repair. It also reduces the overall long-term capital and operational expenditures for a given national road network. And it also gives emphasis on the fact to maintain the good quality of a network, speed of travel, and traffic safety. So in following the strategic guidance, then ADB embarked on several efforts. One key document is the compendium on best practices in road asset management. It provides the readers with a general introduction to the concept of road asset management. It elaborates on the objectives of road asset management to optimize economic benefits by minimizing maintenance costs and road user costs. And it also presents best practices for introduction and the development of road asset management. And of course, today we are interested to hear more about your most recent experiences in that field. And it also reflects on the common problems in the different CAREC member countries. It had also already presented some of the most successful solutions in the development of road asset management. And of course, again, we would like to expand on this today. Another document that was developed with ADB's assistance is the Guide to Performance-Based Road Maintenance Contracts. As you as specialists are all aware, this is a component that is closely linked with a road asset management system. And the objectives of this guide was to assist the CAREC countries to better understand the concept of a performance-based road maintenance contract. It also is laid out as a guidance on the implementation of performance-based contracts, and it describes different delivery modes of road maintenance, and it also provides a brief history of the contract modality and discusses the advantages and disadvantages of each of them. It defines various types of the performance-based contracts and discusses their variable elements. Would it be scope definition, duration, extension, then performance levels, payment and incentive systems, and performance monitoring, amongst others, and also a discussion on risks and risk mitigation of this type of contract modality. Then, based on these previous efforts, and this is a effort that's still ongoing, it's currently being transposed into what we call a knowledge product. As Director Iwasaki mentioned, it's upcoming. We hope for a finalization of the document by October, November. And this is a direct result of the CAREC Transport Strategy 2030 provisions, as well as the two other documents I introduced. And the key aspect was to take a stock take of the status of road asset management implementation and execution, as well as a stock take of performance-based contracting in the region. So for each CAREC member country, the document provides an overview of the road network, its composition. It also, what I feel is important to understand the context of road asset management, the institutional responsibilities for its management, as well as the involvement of government units and private sector contractors. Also, very interesting, at the heart of possibly all of you is then a discussion on levels and sources of funding for the road sector, and particularly road asset management, relating in road maintenance and repairs. The document and the effort concludes with a summary of lessons learned over the last years and proposes a series of ways forwards for future activities in the sector. And this is the point in time where we are currently. We are discussing on how to extend the work of road asset management and performance-based contract activities for the CAREC regions. And we are currently discussing an extension of the previous undertaking to look at road maintenance financing in the CAREC regions. Excuse me. For example, to also do an exercise, a stock take exercise, what are the different types of road user charges in the regions? What are related revenue levels being collected? And then obviously very important, and I hadn't seen it anywhere before, the degree to which these funds that are collected are being earmarked for road maintenance. And then obviously critical, the level of the estimated road maintenance to the actual road maintenance budgets. In some cases, or basically many countries, road user charges are being collected, but not necessarily dedicated and earmarked for the purpose of road maintenance or improvement. And similarly, we are interested in continuing work in the performance-based contract sector. And again, first of all, trying to do a stock take, what are current performance-based contracting efforts. We would seek to review several ongoing as well as completed performance-based contract pilot projects, and then analyze how these contracts were designed, what issues may have been faced during implementation, and potentially to put together guidance on the best way to implement these types of contracts. So with that, and on the left, you see this typical chart. You might have seen it before, but it gives you quite a bit of a clear idea about the complexity of road asset management and performance-based contracting, the financing aspect, institutional framework, planning, and implementation. And yes, I'm delighted to be here today, because one other future activity can be to use this pilot activity to help potentially establish a platform across the CAREC countries, or potentially even further, to facilitate an exchange discussion amongst the CAREC countries, and particularly amongst the specialists that work in this area, since I believe we always can learn from each other. And hopefully this session today will be the start of this type of future ongoing communication. With that, I will conclude and will hand over to Serge Cartier-van Diesel, who has been the consultant on the last two efforts, and he will be also moderating the today's session. With that, I thank you for your attention, and I'm looking forward to an interesting and interactive discussion today. Thank you very much. And with that, over to you, Serge.
Thanks, Thomas. Let me share my screen. So Thomas and Mr. Iwasaki before him already explained about the different activities that AADB has been having in terms of road asset management system support, but also the wider aspects of road maintenance. I myself will be talking about the ongoing study that we've been carrying out to assess the road asset management systems in the different CAREC countries. We've been looking at road asset management systems and at performance-based contracting approaches. But the focus for today will be on the road asset management systems to present some of the findings that we've had. So again, the same diagram, as it helps to visualize what we're actually talking about. When we're talking about the road asset management system, just so that we have a common definition, we're talking about any system that is used to collect data, manage data, and analyze data on roads, with the purpose of using that for planning and programming. And then we are basically talking about this square in the middle, which is the actual road asset management system. So that's usually a computerized system where data goes in, is managed, and is analyzed, and some outputs come out that help us in our planning and programming of different roadworks. But that, of course, has to fit within a wider context of road asset management, which includes the institutional framework for operating the RAMs, but also for implementing the entire road maintenance system, but also the planning procedures, the implementation procedures that exist for contracting, for carrying out works through force account, and very importantly, financing options. So when we look at the system, when we talk about data collection, database management, and data analysis, data collection, of course, we are mainly talking about road inventory, road condition, and road traffic data and related structures like bridges and tunnels. This can be for the entire road network. It can be for a sub-network, for instance, just the higher road classes or just the paved road network. And it usually makes use of certain equipment to measure road conditions, to collect data on inventory. Equipment that can help us increase the accuracy of the data and the objectivity of the data, but especially equipment that can help reduce the costs of collecting that data. We need a database to put all that data into. The first objective is to store the data, but it also helps us to combine different data sets, for instance, road lengths and surface types, that we can combine data to determine which length of paved roads have a certain condition, for instance. So it can help us provide basic statistics on the road network. And all this data and all these statistics can be presented as tables, they can be presented as graphs, or increasingly as maps using a geographic information system, a GIS system. And often these databases have certain standard reports that allow us to prepare standard tables that we need to use in our annual reporting or our quarterly reporting. And they allow us to export data so that we can use it in other software, or that we can use it in Excel, that we can do further analysis with that data. And the third element is the actual data analysis, and this is mainly the planning module that allows us to identify what kind of treatments are necessary in the road network, in the bridge, different bridges, to estimate the costs of those treatments. And very important is the prioritization of interventions, because of course we never have enough budget to do everything, so we have to make a selection. That means we have to prioritize some treatments that we do now and other treatments that we do later. And this, of course, requires certain software or algorithms. Just to give some examples, so the document actually looks at all the 11 CAREC member countries. I've listed 4 here, excluding 3 countries that we'll be presenting today, because they can do that a lot better than I can. But just to show that each country is very different. They have a different history, they have a different structure, they have different priorities at the moment. So the way that the RAMS is developed in each country will be different. There's not one single solution. In Kyrgyz, for instance, they started off with an Excel-based RAMS that was developed with World Bank support. And more recently, they've upgraded that to a web-based road asset management system developed with ADB support. And interesting there is that they have a production innovation center that is actually doing all the data collection and all the data entry and the management of the database on behalf of the ministry. So there's a contract between the ministry and the production innovation center to actually operate the RAMS. Kazakhstan have also recently developed their web-based RAMS with the World Bank support. Kazakhstan again is different because they have a system of laboratories at the oblast level, and each of these laboratories has had a survey vehicle that has been upgraded, and so the actual data collection is done at the oblast level. And more recently, they created the National Center for Quality of Road Assets that is now responsible for consolidating all that data and putting it into the database. And the Oblast laboratories are now under that national center. China, of course, is a very big country. The management of the highway network has been delegated to the provinces. But at central level, they've developed the China Pavement Management System, which is a RAMS in itself. And slowly we see that the different provinces are taking up this system. And often in the provinces, the data collection and the management of that system is again contracted out to the provincial highway research institutes. Azerbaijan, they developed a very comprehensive RAMS a number of years ago with World Bank support. The data collection and the RAMS operation are under Azeravtoyol, but we see that there's so much data that goes into the system that it's actually difficult for them to keep the system up to date. And we see that it's not really being fully used to its full potential. So what I want to show with these examples is that every country is different. We need to adapt the RAMS to each country's current conditions, current status, the structures that exist, and see how can we fit in the RAMS so that it will actually serve the country and improve the management of the roads. What we also saw in the study is that there are basically three phases in RAM's development. The first is the piloting, and this is often development partner led, where we see projects and consultants supporting a country to pilot the development of a road asset management system. They collect some data for part of the network. This data is entered into a database, and some kind of analysis is carried out, often with commercial software like HTM4. So it's very small scales, just to show what can be done and how it works. And this we have seen in all CAREC countries. All CAREC countries have done this to some degree or other. The next phase is where we actually get the replication. We start scaling up to either the entire road network or at least a sub-network, the higher level roads, for instance. And we start regular data collection, not just 1 year, but we try and repeat it in subsequent years. We develop a more comprehensive database with more functionality that can actually do more than just store data. And the analysis, the planning module is developed either by using commercial software or by developing specific algorithms or other types of tools. And what we also often see at this stage is the creation of a RAMS unit, some kind of unit often within the government, the department responsible for the road network or for road management. And that unit, with a limited number of staff, will be responsible for operating the RAMS. So that's the first step in actually institutionalizing the RAMS. And we see that at the moment, most CAREC countries are in this phase. And that is in itself already a big step forward. When we did the compendium of best practices in 2017, we saw that most countries were actually still in the piloting phase. Now, many of them have moved to the replication phase. And the last phase, which is probably the most difficult phase, is the integration of the RAMS into existing institutional framework, existing financing systems, existing planning procedures. That means that we need to have annual budgets allocated to this RAMS unit so that they can actually go out and collect the data and that they can operate the database and keep it up to date. It means that we need to integrate the RAMS into existing planning and budgeting procedures. We don't want it as a standalone tool. It has to actually influence the planning. It means that the RAMS should have an impact on financing levels. With the RAMS, we can define how much money is actually needed, and we can look at what will be the impact of different budget levels. So we're hoping that then we can increase the funding for maintenance. And we see that very few countries have reached this stage, and it is really a difficult stage because it's very dependent on the countries themselves. It needs political will to actually go and integrate. The first two stages we can do a lot with development partner support and financing, but the final stage we really need political will. Just as a quick overview of the different countries, we see that near all the countries have had some kind of piloting of RAMS in some form or other, and that most countries are now in this replication phase where they actually trying to set up a national system for data collection, data management, and data analysis. In different stages, some have just entered that replication phase. Some countries are near the end of the replication phase and entering the integration phase. We only see actually two countries which are really into that integration phase, and both are here today, Georgia and Pakistan, where we actually see that the RAMS is forming the basis for annual planning of works, and that there is an annual budget for actually collecting data and carrying out the RAMS analysis, and that it does have an impact on financing levels and how that financing is used. But there are also a number of lessons learned that we've seen. Some were already mentioned in the compendium of best practices. Some are new now that we've looked at it a bit more detail. One thing we see, and that's a very important one, is that there's a tendency to develop very complex systems. Of course, we want the state-of-the-art RAM system with video and roughness and everything on our screen, and a click of the button and we see everything that we want to see. But we forget that doing that is very costly. The RAMs only works if we have the data, and to collect all that data, to have every single road sign in our database, to know everything about every single culvert, to have all that data in our system is very expensive. And often we see that if we go for a very complex system, that it's very difficult to keep it working. So strong advice is to start with a very basic system. Once we're happy with that, we start expanding it at a later stage and including more data and more complex systems. By doing that, we also know better what kind of functionality we want. Now there is about network coverage. There's also a desire to immediately collect data for all the entire road network. Again, collecting data can be expensive. And especially with the lower level roads, where we're talking about many small roads, short roads, data collection can be very expensive. For the higher level roads, which are several hundred kilometers in length, data collection can be relatively less expensive. But we also see that for these low level roads, there's often not enough budget to actually address any needs that we identify. So even if we collect the data, there's not much we can do with it. So here the recommendation is to start with focus on higher level roads first and gradually expand to include other roads. Also, continued development is required to develop a RAMS, and I'm sure Pakistan and Georgia will mention this in the presentation. It takes time. It takes probably at least 10 years to have a proper functioning RAMS. And then afterwards, you still have further development. But that means that if we want to develop a RAMS in one single project with a duration of 5 years, that will likely not work. We need multiple projects to provide support to this effort. So we need extended support. And for instance, the development of a RAMS I need to see the notes. I'm not sure how that works. The RAMS action program, that's something that was developed in Tajikistan, for instance, that can guide us to look at the next 5 or 10 years, exactly what do we expect to achieve in terms of steps, and when do we expect to achieve it. And that can guide development partner support, for instance, that we said we have 10 years to develop the RAMS. And these are the different steps we want to take, and different development partners can support different parts of that development approach. Institutionalization, that means of course, we need a RAMS unit. I will go quickly because there's not much time left. But it basically means we need a RAMS unit. We need to institutionalize the entire RAMS and its procedures. And we need funding for data collection for the RAMS operation, and we need an annual data collection program. Planning, budgeting, basically what we need to ensure there is that when we have a RAMS, we actually integrate it into existing planning and budgeting procedures, so that the rounds forms the basis of the annual planning and budgeting approach, so that it actually has an effect. Otherwise, the rounds, of course, will be will have very little benefit. Appropriate financing, that's a very important one, because even if we have the best RAMs, it won't help if we don't have enough funding. The RAMs will not in itself increase the amount of funding that is available. It will also not achieve that you can suddenly do more maintenance with the amount of funding that you have. The RAMs can only help you decide what kind of treatments you should carry out, should prioritize, and which roads you should carry out those treatments. It can improve the efficiency of the available budget, but it won't do miracles. So you do need increased funding. And that means looking at how much funding do I need with the current budget? What does that mean for my road network condition over time? And what kind of level of funding do I need to stabilize my network? And what kind of funding level do I need to improve my road network conditions over time? And that means also looking at road user charges and possibly a road fund or a road maintenance account. But looking at what road user charges can we collect to cover those needs and have a more predictable budget so that we can do long-term planning instead of being dependent on how much budget we receive each year. And lastly, on works implementation, what we see when a RAMS is introduced and actually starts influencing the annual planning and budgeting is that there's a shift, and there's a shift from rehabilitation of roads that are in poor condition to routine and periodic maintenance, especially periodic maintenance of roads that are in good or fair condition. So the objective is to avoid that roads reach poor condition rather than repair roads that are already in poor condition, because it's in the long run that has a stronger effect on improving road conditions. But that means we suddenly have a lot more periodic maintenance, especially in the CAREC region. We see that very little periodic maintenance is carried out in many of the CAREC member countries. And introducing RAMs will introduce a shift and a need for more periodic maintenance. And that means we have to develop the capacities to carry out those works. That can be, that provides a very good opportunity to involve the private sector in carrying out periodic maintenance. But it can also be an opportunity to introduce other contracting modalities, for instance, performance-based contracts. So the important thing that I've learned from this status study is that we need to address all these areas, not just focus on the road asset management system. The road asset management system can be quite easily developed, but to actually make it a usable tool, we have to focus on institutional framework, the planning procedures, the financing options, and even implementation. And if we forget any of those, there's a strong risk that the RAMs will fail. With that, I hand back to you, Rika. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Thomas, Serge. So now we are moving to the next session. We will start the country presentation from Tajikistan. So first presenter is Mr. Shrop Yakubzodeh, Ministry of Transport of Tajikistan. Mr. Yakubzodeh is the head of the Road and Transport Sector Digitalization Unit. So Mr. Yakubzodeh, over to you.
Да. Спасибо. Добрый день, коллеги.
Yes, thank you very much. Thanks for giving me the floor. My name is Sohrab Sada, and I'm the head of the Road and Transport Sector Digitalization Unit with the Ministry of Transport of Tajikistan. Next slide, please. So Tajikistan has the total area of 142 square kilometers, 1,000 square kilometers. It is a mountainous area, and the majority of the territory of the country is covered by mountains, which is why the road network has a very important, crucial role to play in supplying the roads and services to all of the communities across the country. And Tajikistan has a road network with a total length of nearly 26,000 square kilometers, including nearly 23,000 kilometers of the general public roads, and including around 20,000 kilometers of the roads, and around 8,000 kilometers of the local significance roads, and around 85% of the road network of Tajikistan are class 3 or 4 roads. And the remaining roads are classified as subclass 5. And around 3/4 of the total road network have hard surface, of which less than half are covered with concrete, and the rest are covered with gravel, and the majority of the rest are covered with gravel without bitumen, and nearly half of the roads, which are mostly local roads, they are covered by earth only. And next slide, please. And there are 6 regional units and 64 state road maintenance authorities, which have been established as the public entities. And there is also a road for the management of tunnels and lighting, which has been recently established and is responsible for the management of the lighting system as well as the system of tunnels. And last year there was a new division, a new unit. It was established within the Department of Analysis and Economic Forecasting. This is a digitalization unit. Next slide, please.
Сбор данных. По дорогам Министерства транспорта в настоящее время очень ограничен. Данные о протяженности дорог, типе поверхности, количество полос и сооружениях собираются каждый год. Но они не имеют географической привязки с использованием GPS. Не хранятся систематическим образом по какой-либо базе. Данные о состоянии дорог и потребностях в обслуживании собираются ежегодно в марте-апреле посредством визуальных проверок, проводимых ГУСАДами. Следующий слайд, пожалуйста. С недавнего прошлого проект, финансируемый JICA, предоставляет поддержку по сбору базовых...
And apologies, there was a mishap with the channels. So there is an existing road asset management practice, and we have introduced the dynamic road management system, which collects data with the use of the accelerometer and combines this data with the use of the portable GPS units. And the data is input into the laptop, and it also includes the IRI findings, and it also uses the recordings from the video cameras to assess the cracks in the road. And the findings are visualized on the map with the use of the Google Earth application. Unfortunately, the functionality of the system is quite limited, and it only covers 1,300 kilometers of roads. And until very recently, this data has been collected manually. But since last year, the Ministry of Transport, with the support of the World Bank, has established 40 stationary units, overhead units, to monitor the transport floor, which operate on a 24/7 basis to measure the transport flow. And they're connected to the servers of the Ministry of Transport, and we are planning to integrate the system into the RAMS system. Also, with the support of the World Bank, we have developed and piloted the database on roads. Unfortunately, this database is limited considerably and requires update and upgrade in line with the modern RAMS requirements. And the module on planning has also been developed with the support of the World Bank as a part of this database, and it has been developed with the use of the algorithm custom designed for Tajikistan to measure, monitor, and store information on irregularities in the road surface. The video is frozen and there is no audio. And our system covers data on all of the tunnels, but it requires substantial upgrade since the data collected in the databases is outdated. Next slide, please. And this program has been developed within the framework of meeting our commitments under the grant agreement for the construction of the Abigar Road. And it establishes the legal framework for the Ministry of Transport for the implementation of activities related to the introduction of the RAMS system. Also, it showcases to all of the stakeholders, including development partners, the prioritized types of activities that are necessary to make sure that the system is sustainable and can operate on a sustainable basis in the long term, and improvement of the road data asset database. This data is currently collected by the regional units and forwarded to the Ministry of Transport. But unfortunately, it is not always possible to validate this data, and it is quite costly to do so. And within the implementation of this program, we are planning to increase considerably the efficiency of data collection, which can be easily verified and validated. And establishment of an efficient budget forming mechanism for the purposes of road maintenance. Currently, the road maintenance budget is formed through the collection of applications from the regional units submitted to the Ministry of Transport, which is later forwarded to the Ministry of Finance. But unfortunately, the funds that are actually allocated for these purposes are largely below the requested levels of funds for these purposes. And we are planning to make sure that the implementation of this new system will allow us to optimize and increase efficiency of using the allocated funds. And we are also planning, with support of our development partners, to purchase modern technology and equipment for the collection and storage of data on road assets, including the equipment and computer servers for data storage, as well as modern specialized software, since the available software and equipment have already been outdated. Next slide, please. and the establishment of the institutional framework for the road asset management purposes. And within the framework of these activities, we are planning to establish the task team, the team force, consisting of the members of the Ministry of Transport to head on to creating and introducing the RAMS system. And further on, this system will be also integrated into the other systems of the Ministry of Transport. So collection, adoption, and processing of accurate data on road conditions. We are planning to avail of the opportunity of participation of our stakeholders and development partners to improve the collection and adoption of the accurate data on road conditions. As regards to the improvement of the database for the collection and processing and storage of data, we are planning to use these activities to improve the collection of our data, and we are looking forward to receiving assistance from our development partners to make sure that we can improve the collection, processing, and storage of data. And we yet need to decide what specific types of data will be collected and processed. And we are also planning to engage international consultants with considerable experience in the RAMS systems to conduct training for the corresponding employees of the regional departments, as well as the staff of the Ministry of Transport on road asset management. Next slide, please. And the financing of the the financing allocated for the purposes of the road maintenance does not always meet the actual needs, and in most cases it is lower than the actual needs across the industry. And under this, in line with these activities, we are planning to prepare annual work plans with the specification of the actual needs for financing required for each of the roads, as well as the 3-year program, which will be updated on an annual basis, and it will be synchronized with the budgeting cycle, which is implemented by the Ministry of Finance. Identification of new mechanism for financing the road maintenance purposes. And we are planning to conduct detailed analysis of the current financing of the road maintenance to identify the challenges and gaps and analyze all of the collections from the road users. And with the involvement of international experts, we are planning to recommend to the government of the Republic of Tajikistan new options for the financing of the public roads and the financing. And the financing of according to our estimates, the current needs are met at the level of 25% only, which is why we will need to explore the new ways of mobilizing the funds and explore new sources of funding for these purposes. And we are also exploring the ways to finance the implementation of the RAMS system until 2024. And we also, until then, we are planning to closely study experience of the other countries and cherry pick the options that are mostly relevant to the current reality in the Republic of Tajikistan. Next slide, please. The actions for the next year. And yes, this slide. Yes, thank you. So in line with the established program, we have created a target group within the Ministry of Transport consisting of 6 specialists of the ministry. And currently, for this target group focuses on the analysis of the needs to ensure the long-term sustainability of the RAMs. And it calls for the institutional strengthening of the department. Next slide, please. And the coordination of our efforts with the development partners to provide support for the implementation of the RAMs. With the World Bank, we are planning to coordinate their support for the optimization of the algorithms and development of the database, as well as staffing of our mobile laboratories, which have been procured recently, and to increase the dynamic weighing points. With the ADB, we are planning to procure the equipment for the storage and collecting data on roads, strengthen the capacity of the RAMS department, and also to collect information on road assets and road conditions. And with the JICA, we are planning to develop the bridge database, and we also plan to coordinate the activities with the other development partners. Next slide, please.
Involvement of other partners for the implementation of the program. Here we need to update computer and peripheral equipment in 6 regional departments and 65 district units. At the moment, the computers that they have are very old, they're obsolete, and we need to update and renew the computers for them to be able to use the RAMS system in the future. Updating computer and peripheral equipment at the central office of the Ministry of Transport, extension of the GPS monitoring system for the road equipment and machinery, and implementation of additional points for recording traffic intensity. This is it as far as I'm concerned. I would like to take advantage of this opportunity and thank the Asian Development Bank for their assistance in developing and adopting this RAMS program in the Republic of Tajikistan, and we hope that we will continue our fruitful cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yokubzoder, for your informative presentation and sharing with us the RAMS situation, RAMS current situation in the Tajikistan. May I invite any question from the floor? Otherwise, we move to the Pakistan team, and then probably we can have a discussion later, since we have the sales questionnaire and panel discussion. Okay, if none, then shall we move to the Pakistan team? Hi, Pakistan team, good afternoon. Second presenter is Mr. Ikram Sakren Haider, General Manager of the Planning of National Highway Authority. Mr. Sakren, Mr. Haider, over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rika-san, and thank you for inviting us to present the road asset management system we have got in Pakistan and share our asset management concepts and plans with you. Next. My sequence of presentation will be that what are the road statistics in Pakistan, creation of NHA, establishment of RAM, situation of road inherited in NHA, and then we will talk about the asset management system revolving through bridge management system, road assessment management system, pavement management system, and GIS. That is the global context on base of which the entire road database and everything is made. Next. Next. This is these are few statistics. Sorry, if you can go back. These are few statistics of Pakistan. The annual growth rate is about 9%. We have got the national highway and length is 13,570. Overall total road network in Pakistan is about 492,000 kilometers. The road density is 0.32 per kilometer. And next. Out of the 492,000 kilometers, 13,500 kilometers are with National Highway Authority, but we are custodian of 51 roads, and out of which 11,426 kilometers are national highways, 2,066 kilometers are motorways, and 78 kilometers fall under the category of expressway. The passenger traffic on national highway network is about 80% of the commercial traffic we carry. But overall, when you say the road ways in Pakistan, passenger traffic are moving, 90% of the passenger traffic is moving on roads, and freight traffic about 95% is moving on the roads. Next. Sir, how we evolved our concept of road asset management in Pakistan, that National Highway Board was created in 78, and then in 1991, NHA was established. But in 1991, when we were establishing, we thought that financing of our roads will be very difficult, and without off-budget financing, we cannot do that. And because of limited funding. So the best thing would have been that we have to maintain our roads in an optimal manner. So way back in 1996, we launched the asset management program with the assistance of World Bank. And then in 1999, so in 1996, we had a MIL system adopted, based on which all our maintenance activities were planned and prioritized. Then in 1999, road asset management a division was established, and we developed a fund for it, that how we are going to use it. Next. Then we developed our road maintenance account rules and SOPs, that no funds will be deviated to development funds. So we will have a sufficient source, sustainable source available with us for the funding of all our maintenance activities. And we also established that how we can generate from other sources of budget financing to subsidize the requirement, because the government grants were not ample enough to cater for our needs. Then we computerized all our payment management system, developed the road database way back in 2016. We developed our bridge management system. There was a bridge management system in 2006 also, but we improved it in 2015. Then we carried out some Pakistan Road Assessment Program 3-star system with the assistance of ADB. CAREC was established, and in 2019 we have completely developed the GIS integration of PMS, BMS, CAREC. So now everything is integrated with GIS system. Next. The next is our mission statement, that we want to have a efficient, reliable, safe and environmental friendly national highway and motorway network for sustainable economic growth and higher quality of life. So these are the mission statement. These are few tasks. Next. So what we have inherited in NHA and why we embarked on the journey for asset management is that we had an aging infrastructure. We had axle load overloading. we have congestion in urban areas. We will have low standards of roads. There were funding constraints. We have increasing heavy traffic, and the level of maintenance of our assets was not good enough. Next. These are few photographs which showed that how badly roads were maintained when we didn't have the asset management concept. Next. So in order to transform from the network we inherited, we carried out that how quickly we can widen our existing network, how quickly we can develop our expressways and motorways. We can bypass the urban areas, and then we can have accident-prone location, black spot, identify them and improve them, geometric improvement of sharp curvature and axle load management, and introduction of tolling culture. Next. So this is the mission statement for RAMD. Basically, we want to spend money where there is a need. So we developed the concept for fee for service. Concept was generated, and the appropriate fund should be dedicatedly assigned to the area where there is a need. Next. So as I have mentioned in the next slide, we have got an integrated system. We have bridge management system established. We have GIS management system. We have got Pakistan Road Asset Assessment Management for highway safety. And then we have payment management system. So all these things are integrated in a road database that prepares the annual maintenance plan based on HDM models. And we carry out different kinds of maintenance. And when the complete plan comes out of the road database, it is circulated, and we exercise the different types of maintenance at our regional levels. Next. Next. These are few functions of bridge management system. I'm going to skip few things because my presentation is quite long, so I don't want to take all the, you can have this presentation and go through the entire thing. Next. Basically, the issue with bridge management is that we should know the condition. Next, please. We should know the condition of our types of bridges. What sort of bridges are there? Can we have the next slide, please? Next. Back. You skip 2. One more back, sir. So this is the deterioration model that whenever traffic starts moving on your road network, there is a deterioration curve for structure soundness. Its performance is also deteriorated with the passage of time and movement of traffic. So you have to introduce different maintenance and repairs to improve the structures. Next. How we developed it with the assistance of JICA in 2016, we revamped our bridge management system and evaluated the soundness to the range of 1 to 4. The bridges soundness score 4 are prioritized for maintenance after allocation of budget in every year annual maintenance plan. The structure is repaired and maintained. Next. So this is the next slide. This is how the bridge management system works. The scheme is prepared, inspection is carried out, BMS take all the data, updated structures. We have got budget, we have prioritization, inspection, equipment, routine. We carry out routine inspections, periodic inspections, special, and based on the standards we have got, we developed a complete bridge inspection database, and based on that, a complete plan for every structure is prepared. Next. In next slide, you will find how things are recorded. There are different entries, and with every entry, everything is recorded and established. Next. This is the form next. If you keep on moving. Next. This is inspection report, how it is generated, and ultimately, based on all the inspection forms and the software, the maintenance type, requirement, and everything is prepared. Then PARCRAP, the entire network, is assessed on star rating system, and safer road investment plan is developed. For each kilometer of road, we assign a certain star to that, how good condition is that particular road in. Next. 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 So the worst is single star and the best is 5-star system, sir. Every road segment is assigned a different star value, sir. Next. So highway safety is also integrated in the complete concept of asset management, because road users' safety is very essential. Next. These are the list of all attributes for star rating, which are considered while assessing the. Next. Example of a vehicle of 5-star, the pavement marking should be there, the shoulders should be properly identified, and they should be operational at a operating speed. It should be straight, good delineation, good side distance, good pavement condition, no roadside severity should be observed. Next. 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 These are different 5-star, 4-star, 3-star ratings which are assigned. Next. If next. On 1-star, if you can see the curve is blind, so in a residential area, the sharp curve is there. So with this, the poor site condition, so the rating is clearly designed. Next. Next. Next slide represents the star rating versus crash cost, the economic cost of a death. Low or middle income countries 70 into GDP per capita, whereas serious injury cost of a serious injury to economy is 0.25 into economic cost of it. About economic cost of a fatality in Pakistan is about 11 million Pak rupees, whereas a serious injury cost about 3 million Pak rupees. So that sort of carried out, and we have to inform our decision makers that how serious is your road safety for the safety of public and everyone. Next. You can move to next, sir. This is the safer road investment plan based on which funds are assigned to road safety of our national highway network, sir. Now coming to road asset management systems next. We have got a 13,500 kilometer long road network. Every year we carry out next. Every year we carry out road condition of our road network. This is the assessment of last few years. If you can see, 55.1% of our network is in fair condition, about 16.91% is in good condition, whereas 5.8% is in poor, whereas 22.15% is in poor, whereas 5.8 is in very poor condition. This is the status of remaining service life, sir. Good means having more than 4 years to life, fair means 2.5 to 4 years life, poor means 1 to 2.5 years life, whereas very poor means no life or at least 1 year's life. Next. Next slide shows the roughness of our entire road network, sir. So if you can see, the good is about 4,373 kilometers are in fair, 2,180 kilometers are in fair condition, poor is 2,398, very poor is 2,134. Next. The next slide depicts different types of maintenance and what sort of activities with each type of maintenance scheme is carried out. Next. Next. The pavement deterioration curve shows how a very good road start deteriorating and what sort of rapid deterioration with age and lack of proper maintenance is caused, and how well we can maintain if preventive maintenance is carried out in time. Next. So the process of preparation of maintenance plan evolves in such a way that we estimation of revenue envelope is carried out. The all off-budget financing receipts that those are coming from toll collection, police fine, ROW maintenance grant. They come into our road asset management account. Then we collect the road data from pavement condition survey, pavement roughness survey, pavement strength evaluation using HWD, traffic survey, historical data, carry out the assessment, carry out the economic analysis, HDM network level analysis, both at strategic level and at program level also. In the strategic level, constrained and unconstrained programs are developed, and based on that, a complete annual maintenance plan is prepared. Next. Then we have got the approval, and in a cyclic manner within 1 year, starting from the cycle, if you can go to the next. The complete program is developed. Road condition survey carried out, analysis and prioritization of maintenance work is carried out, unconstrained maintenance requirement is developed, resource envelope gives you the requirement of funds, and then based on that, annual maintenance plan on the constrained conditions of the resource envelope is prepared and executed, procured and executed. Next. So this is the next slide, shows you the annual work cycle, that how data collection starts, then a strategic and program level analysis, then we carry out the regional stakeholder consultation, project level appraisals is prepared, The entire plan goes to the Road Asset Management Technical Scrutiny Committee, then to the Steering Committee, and then Executive Boards approved, and then all the contracts are procured. So within a 1 year cycle, the entire maintenance plan is carried out. Next. These are few payment condition survey parameters. Different stresses are calculated, identified for each kilometer. Their extent and severity is determined purely based on the data we receive. The need is established. Next. The payment condition survey also includes some mechanical tools. We have got international roughness for international roughness index. We have profilometer. We have HWD, how they operate. Next. Next. Sir, this is the comparison of maintenance budget requirement and what we get. So there is a maintenance backlog normally created, which creates a shortage because of which some roads goes from, you can say, from routine maintenance or overlays into rehabilitation. That's why you can see in our graphs, there is certain shortage. The HDM analysis is carried out. I've already discussed this previously. Next. And based on the HDM analysis, we prepare the periodic maintenance, functional overlay, structural overlay, rehabilitation, routine maintenance, and the BMS provides the cost for bridge management, highway safety comes from road asset management, and then there are some corrective maintenance also for which fixed amounts are allocated. This makes the entire portfolio of annual maintenance plans. Next. So the trend over here is shown that you have to have a resource envelope, because in developing countries, you cannot afford that your standards should be such lower that you can't afford them. So in order to have affordability within the resource envelope, it is must that you must fix a envelope in which you desire that your network should be. In our case, we have desired and we have been working that international roughness index, our network, average network should be between 3 to 4 international roughness index. And we have achieved the target in 2019, and from there we are slowly and steadily going by reducing the international roughness index for our entire network. Next. Sir, thank you. Next. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'm available to answer.
Mr. Sakren, thank you very much for your very informative and comprehensive presentation. And then thank you very much for your effort to complete your such presentation on time. We are a little bit ahead of the time, so please let us take a short break. And then the second session will start with the Georgia representative presentation. So we will start at, so the break could be the 10 minutes. So please let us start the next session at 3:40 in Islamabad, Dushanbe time, or 2:40 in Tbilisi time. So we want to start on time, so please return to the session on time. So thank you very much for your patient attention, and see you soon. Thank you. Okay, so we have 1 minute to go for Georgia team. Mr. Gioroki, if you are already, please stand by. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, we are ready. I'm just waiting for my colleagues to. We should take 1 minute.
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Gioroki, are you ready or still waiting?
We can start and they will join in parallel. I think they're nearby. So.
Okay, so Ms. Maria and myself, we are ready for slide control. When you start, please give us a sign.
Yeah, okay. Yes,
Thank
my
you.
colleagues are here, so we can start.
Okay.
Again, hello everyone, and thanks for this opportunity. We were listening to this presentation, and we already see a lot of help that countries can provide to each other. We did prepare some questions, but we saved them for the later, for the quick Q&A. So together with me, there's the head of the planning division from the Road Department, David Getzate, and Mr. Papunagamprelidze is the deputy chairman of the Road Department. They are directly involved in the RAMS operation, in the planning, and all the related activities. Next slide, please. So this is the content of our presentation. The content will be very brief, so if there will be any technical questions, we are ready to address them during Q&A. So first, we will cover the general development overview and the key milestones. After, we will go through the operation. It includes the software that is used and how the software is used annually. Then we will cover the data collection part, where we will discuss what data is collected and what frequency we update them. Then we will review the planning cycle in terms of management planning cycle, as well as the preparation of the plan. Afterwards, we will discuss key challenges that we face during the implementation of RAMS during these years, and few solutions that we have tried and applied. And lastly, we will go through the planned developments that it's a short-term plan developments for the future. Next slide, please. So road network of Georgia in total is about 20,000 kilometers. It does include the local roads as well. However, under the management of road department, it's only international and secondary roads. So in total, about 7,000 kilometers are managed by Roads Department of Georgia. All road-related activities such as rehabilitation, routine maintenance, winter maintenance, construction, and periodic maintenance are outsourced to private sector, including the design works of large projects and rehabilitation works. Next slide, please. So about a few years ago, we did a study together with the World Bank to assess the total asset value of road network. The key idea here was to identify the volume of the road assets and to use it as a good indicator to facilitate maintenance finance and to ensure that we highlight the importance of the road assets within the country. So in total, during the time, around 40% total asset value of Georgia roads was about 40% of its total GDP. It's currently probably much higher because of the large construction works on the highway that is ongoing. but this is one of the items where we are discussing together with Ministry of Finance or some decision makers to again and again highlight the importance of maintaining this high volume asset. Next slide, please. So this is the RAM's development overview. We have selected a few milestones. So if you look, as it was already discussed, it takes plenty of time. So initially, first activities we started in 2007. This included basic data collection equipment, like roughness measurement, basic systems to process the data and store the data, and very simple analysis methodology. For instance, you could identify the road sections with high roughness and high traffic. So it was very simple in the beginning. So then when we were able to cover the full network for the traffic data and the roughness data, we introduced the HDM modeling tool. Initially, it was quite challenging to implement the HDM4 because of the extensive data requirements. So at first stage, we started to use it as a project analysis tool. And only on some later stages when we developed the tools sufficient enough to model the whole network for the HDM, then we switched to the multi-year planning and program preparation. At this later stages, when we already had the quite good data coverage, like 100% of the road network, and some basic methodologies for life cycle analysis, we introduced first pilot OPRC project. It was a 5-year project, which we finalized a few years ago. It was quite successful. And it gave us a lot of good experience in terms of the RAMs, because all the monitoring activities of OPRC project is directly linked to how good the RAMs operations are. So we had to upgrade the equipment as well to be sufficiently accurate enough for the OPRC monitoring. This includes, for instance, roughness measurement that was upgraded to the laser one. This was required to monitor all the service level requirements that were developed for the OPRC monitoring, and this was quite extensive requirements. This OPRC included both maintenance and rehabilitation and periodic works as well. So what happened in parallel, because during all these activities, we were able to prioritize high traffic roads because of their economic benefits and user cost reductions. However, some road areas with where we don't have so much traffic, it was really hard to justify the large investments that was required to recover the backlog. We mean like rehabilitation works and this large capital investments. Just the running the HDM4 for economic indicators was not enough at this stage, because more or less the high traffic roads were already in good condition. So we had to adapt, and what we did to address this, we developed additional social indicators, which is currently used in parallel to the economic indicators to justify the investments within the areas of low traffic intensity, etc. This upgrade of the planning was done about like 5 years ago, and since then it's been a part of the annual planning procedure every year. Latest activity that was done related to the RAMs was the introduction of the IRAP methodology. We did one pilot on around 500 kilometers of roads, and in parallel we accredited all our road safety division staff members to work and code and do the star rating on the IRAP methodology. One thing that I want to highlight, and we can discuss it on other slides, is also that the focus of roads department through the years was to implement the capacity in-house, and we do outsource, of course, all of these activities were individual projects, but after the implementation, we are trying to build the capacity enough to continue the work fully in-house, including data collection, planning, etc. Next slide, please. Sorry, next slide. Thank you. So we will cover the RAMS operation now. So in total, in the planning division, there's 8 personnel, but not all of them are directly related to the RAMS systems itself, but are part of the planning process. I'd say about 2 or 3 people are like field surveyors. They spend most of the time on the field, and then it help our data analysis and data management. We do have a few engineers in the group, which are key personnel to finalize the plan when it's prepared by the software itself, balance it by the engineering experience, of course. The system itself, the core of our RAMS is GIS, Geographic Information System. We use data collection ROMDA system for the field data, and for the planning and lifecycle benefit analysis, we use the HDM4. Next slide, please. Just a short review of what equipment currently we operate. This is the laser profilometers for the IRI measurement. We implemented the 360-degree camera unit. This was mainly to address the requirements of the IROP, because IROP survey requires the wider angle for the camera, and of course the odometer and geometry and additional equipment for the vehicle. Currently, we cover around 200 locations for traffic surveys. This includes automated traffic counts by radar equipment. Of course, in any planning, you require the external data, which you don't operate yourself within your department. So for accident data, we annually receive data from the metropolis. In addition, we combine this data to the border crossing data on cargo amounts and from number of border crossings. For instance, for social indicators, we use population data from the census and combine it, of course, with tourism, like healthcare and additional data. This we will review in some next slides. We will briefly discuss the indicators. Next slide, please. So in terms of the management cycle for the planning, it does look the following. So in the beginning of the year, we prepare the data collection plan. And during the summertime, when it's appropriate weather for the field works, we do the full network survey. We combine this full network survey with the stakeholders' inputs, and these inputs are mostly like the population themselves, who have the proper channels to send their requests to those departments and to municipalities. And the important input here is also the municipalities themselves that are on the field and have quite good information also on the situation there. Not just for the road condition, but climate data. They are there every day, so they form the key data source.
A request from the interpreters for the speaker to speak up. The interpretation is hardly possible because the interpreters can barely understand what is being said.
In the fall, and then we prepare the initial multi-year program. This is basically a list of potential sections where we should do the capital investment. Sorry, should I come closer or?
Yes, please come closer. The interpreters can barely understand what you're saying.
Mr. Georgi, please speak a little bit louder so that interpreter can capture your voice.
Okay, thank you. I will come closer to the microphone then.
Oh, much better. I hope the interpreter can hear him.
This seems to be better. Thank you. Yeah, this is better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Georgi, for your kind understanding.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Next slide, please. So this is a more like specific process, how the annual data is prepared. This combines the system itself, but of course the inputs of engineers and other external data. So as we already discussed, after like step 4, when we do the HDM4 program analysis, it gives us an unconstrained program. And of course, the system never knows how much financing capability those departments will have. So we use the experience of our engineers and the department itself to convert the multi-year program, which is unconstrained, to the constrained program that is still prioritized by the indicators, but it's also balanced for financially. Next slide, please. So the main output of this systems that we provide to the engineers are the maps. These are very detailed map for each region that shows the planned periodic maintenance and rehabilitation and proposed year. What the engineers then do, they work on these maps and these tables with indicators to make a balanced plan. For instance, they can combine some projects which makes more sense. For instance, do longer periodic maintenance within specific area, or apply the same approach to the rehabilitation. Next slide, please. So after the balance plan, the next year plan is prepared even in more detail. So basically, for each proposed capital investment project, they prepare a project fact sheet. So this is a basic description of the project. It includes the description of why this project ended up in the plan itself. It does include all the indicators from the HDM4, like economic indicators, and it does include all the social indicators. So one key aspect with the social indicator is that it's always, without the detailed data, it's not easy to come up with objective indicators. And we didn't want it to have like a subjective indicator to end up in our planning. So what we ended up using is the population density. The calculation of this indicator is automated because, as you know, when you do the network level analysis, there's a lot of sections involved, and you can technically, in feasible time, do the manual indicator count. So we initially requested data from Department of Statistics. They gave exact locations of all populated areas, including their population. So the indicator represents the population density within 2 kilometer radius of the proposed individual project that is extracted. So same approach is used for the healthcare, education, and tourism. Basically, it's a 2 kilometer buffer within the potential project. So how many schools are there, how many healthcare facilities, etc. There's few others like Lifeline Road. For some sections, it's a key indicator because sometimes the road provides the only access to the population, to the municipality. So for instance, if there will be road closure to winter, for instance, they are totally cut from the road network. So this is one as well as key indicators for the plan. So all the next year project will have this kind of a one-page document describing the project. Next slide, please. So when we have all this long-term plan, and last year we switched to the 10-year planning. And the main idea to switch to 10-year planning was that it was made like a strategic decision to fully recover the network backlog within 10 years. So this was the reason why we switched to the 10 years. And then all this 10-year plan, we tried and represented it based on it for each individual region. So basically what you see here, for instance, is the road condition in 2020. And if you go to the next slide, for instance, like after 5 years, this is our target. Each improvement here is associated to a specific individual project, which has its own indicators on condition, financial values, estimated costs, etc., within the separate table. And if you go one slide next, you will see our department's target for that region for 2030. So this was done for, of course, for all country and all regions. Can we go to next slide, please? One additional output for the 10-year plan is the following. So we are looking on the roughness graph right now. It is a condition in 2021. Red line represents the condition of the network, current condition of total network. Green and yellow, we are having a separate approach. For instance, the green is the road network under requirement of rehabilitation, and the yellow is under periodic maintenance. So this is the graph from our life cycle analysis to see what will happen to the road network if we will choose to finance it according to the plan. It gave us extra indicator, which is also good to discuss with the decision makers, is the CBR ratio of the total 10-year plan itself. So not just individual projects, because it's always time consuming to discuss individual projects on a high level. So here what we say that based on the plan to recover the total network within Georgia road network is 2.9 billion, and the reduction and the benefits from actually spending this amount of money is 15.5 billion. So this is a good, this happened for us to be a good indication to again highlight the importance of the financing and how this affects all road users. Next slide, please. Here we see the development of the road network and our target values that we are going to monitor with case specific indicators, the network condition graph. Next slide. This is also some of the examples of the IROP study that we did. We found out that it's quite data intensive. So currently, annually, we only manage to code and upload around 200 kilometers of the data. We will still need to see how it will function in the long term, because the manual work that is required to code the IROP data is quite extensive. Next slide, please. That's another example of the data we coded and collected for 500 kilometers. And can you go to the next slide? So as you saw, all these individual projects that we took, we are mostly like capacity building projects. And what we found out in the early stages was that when the project ends, it's always really hard to repeat all the activities. So to take over the full capacity was quite a challenge. It could be the lack of training, maybe some language barriers. It could be that, for instance, those colleagues that were trained, they left the agency. So the approach we took was we started to document all the manuals in very, very detail, like even which button you need to click. So when the new colleague, for instance, had to take over, we could provide him with specific guidelines and manuals. And we started to make a classroom video recordings and computer screen recordings of each training and capacity building activity. And this also ended up to be very, very useful. We have addressed and opened like sometimes 10 years old videos just for some trainees. Second challenging part was, of course, the limited number of personnel for data collection. And it is still quite limited. And this is why, for instance, the IROP coding currently doesn't seem to be sustainable, because it requires a lot of manual inputs. However, for all other activities, we are trying to focus only on automated solutions and not manual work. This includes the road network data collection, as well as data processing and data modeling. So all of these steps that we have discussed in the planning process, they are all automated without requirement of manual input. And third was, during this time, the OPRC was quite a big challenge because it was a new concept, and the contractors and private sector doesn't have a good experience with OPRC contracts. For this, we held very, very extensive and very, very large workshops to ensure that the healthy competition will be available when the bidding process starts. So it was, I think it was in several regions, more than almost 100 people attended from the contractors and their representatives. And we did this kind of workshop about 4 times. And we also executed internal roads department capacity building and trainings very extensively for managing of OPRC projects. Next slide, please. So here are some of the key initiatives which are currently ongoing. One is the weight motion system. With the help of ADB, we have developed the weight motion overload control strategy, as well as TOR for the pilot implementation. The goal is to implement the weight motion system and using the direct enforcement, which is quite challenging technically, but because we are only just starting, it's more feasible to directly start with direct enforcement, I think, rather than to build the road facilities for the enforcement. Next slide, please. In parallel, we are already finalizing this bidding of the project for the purchasing of drones. Key areas that the drones is planning to use are the bridge inspections. We also have a requirement for high quality terrain models, which we lack a lot of times for the project. So these drones will assist us to develop the specific terrain models for the sites. We are planning to use it also for the monitoring of construction sites and as well as for emergency response, for instance, for during the natural hazards. Next slide, please. And the last one is we had an extensive discussion how should we go forward with the ramps. And this one here, what we are showing is like a middle step further. So we already tested the system. This is a cloud-based GIS, and the main benefits that we plan to see after we run this system is that because the limited amount of personnel, we are trying to create the architecture that the contractors, maintenance contractors themselves will be able to be the data providers of the data, because we can't technically cover all the specific data collection from the field ourselves, and it's quite costly. And the second one that we want to test in the future, this kind of approach, like cloud-based GIS, has the option for the crowdsourcing. And this is the concept that's very relevant to OPRC contracts, because the public themselves, they provided even better monitoring and supervision of OPRC areas than the supervisor contractor itself. So this is some new concept that we want to try in parallel while implementing the cloud GIS. I think that's it. It was very brief discussion, but of course, if you have some technical questions, we are happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Giorgi, for the informative presentation of the Georgian ramps development procedure and the future perspective. So we are now moving to the last session. Last session is the panel discussion, or probably we can extend to the Q&A session. Mr. Serge, I would like to invite again Mr. Serge, who is the facilitator for this session. Serge, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Rika. Thank you to all 3 presenters. It was definitely very interesting. Even though I'm familiar with some of the aspects, I always learn something new from these presentations. And I must say, I myself have a lot of questions, but since this is the objective of this workshop is to have an exchange between the different countries, I would like to first open the floor to the participants from each of the countries if they have any comments they would like to make or any questions they would like to pose to one of the other countries. If you do have a comment or a question, please raise your virtual hand. There's a button at the bottom of your screen, reactions, and if you click on that, there's a second button to raise your hand, and you will see a hand like this. And then I can give you the floor. So if you have any questions, please go ahead. Georgi, I see you have your hand raised.
Yes, Serge, thank you. Yeah. So we do have several questions actually to Pakistan, and we will be very happy. So first is related to the tolling, because as you are aware, we are implementing very large projects. It includes some like 8-kilometer tunnels and large amount of bridges. And in Georgia, for last few years, we were considering introducing the tolling concept. We already prepared some pilot project for that, and we are aware of the technicalities of the process. But what we would like to hear from Pakistan would be what was the main challenges in terms of the population acceptance, because this is currently one of the key factors that is stopping the Georgia right now, apart from, of course, other technical difficulties. And how it was addressed, I mean, the response from the population, how it was taken by them, and if there's any recommendation they could provide to make this process more easy. Thank you.
May I respond?
Yes, please, Mr. Haider.
Thank you very much. Very good question, sir, because for off-budget financing and for sustainability of your asset management system, it is very important that all resources are trapped, which are required for maintenance of your road network, and toll is one such source. But as you have mentioned that there is resistance normally when you impose toll. So in order to introduce the tolling culture, you have to start from much lesser toll value, and subsequently when the culture is developed, then you have to move and increase the toll rates. When Pakistan started, so you won't believe that we started with the maximum traffic number section, that was N5 between Lahore and Islamabad, and the rate in pennies were less than 5 pence per kilometer. So still it is very low. If you compare our toll rates to South Asian market, the toll rates are still very low. But that helps a lot in our maintenance of road network. So slowly you have to start, develop a culture, let the people feel that yes, by paying the toll, you are contributing for having better roads, and subsequently you can increase with the passage of time.
Thank you.
And secondly, you have to commercialize your ROW, because from there you can also have some revenue generation opportunities. I hope my reply has answered your question.
Definitely. Thank you. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Mr. Akhtar, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, Georgie, thanks for providing me this opportunity. My name is Hamid Akhtar, and I'm also the focal person for transport sector of Pakistan for CAREC. Of course, there's always been debate about the commercialization and the public service versus the public service. Of course, roads and motorways or any infrastructure is provided for the facility of the people and for facilitation for other purposes like trade, like tourism and other aspects. So debate has always remained, how could we totally rely on a commercial use by putting a heavy toll or getting a toll from the road user directly, or the government may provide some subsidy or like this way, that so that there will be a sufficient funds available to road authorities there so they can maintain their network and operate their network. But of course, there will always be a gap between whatever be the road authorities in the world there. I have also been examined others there in our region also, where it's never be possible for a road agency to have sufficient funds for maintaining their network with respect to bridges or with respect to roadworks to an appropriate level or to their standards. So there is always be gap remains there, and we call it here in maintenance backlog. And that for maintenance backlog, we have again to go to the government for financing. So it's always, we have to, very good question from the Georgia side is always there that we should have some policy recommendations or like that sort of some for the government, that for road agencies to maintaining such things, either you have to, there should be a mechanism where the government may provide certain supports, and then the road agencies can have their commercial. Otherwise, by totally having a commercial network, it's not been possible, at least for countries like developing countries of Pakistan. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that additional comment, Mr. Akhtar. Let me just add a question to that, since we were talking about Pakistan and road financing. Of course, Pakistan has a road maintenance account for which tolling provides most of the revenue. And although tolling revenue has increased, I noticed that as a percentage of total revenue, toll revenue has been decreasing for the road maintenance account. And as you say, Mr. Haider, the right-of-way revenue from advertisements in the right-of-way or other uses of the right-of-way is starting to gain more importance in terms of the revenue. But one of the slides you showed is that there is an increasing gap between the amount of funding that you have and the maintenance, the actual maintenance needs. And I was wondering if the RAMS is helping you in any way to mobilize more funding, either from road user charges in setting the rates, or from the government funding to address this backlog, as Mr. Akhtar was mentioning.
It's a very good question, because you see, as I've mentioned, that we have slowly and gradually increased the toll rates. But at certain point of time, the need of increasing toll rate is more. Like on our national highway network, the average per kilometer toll is 0.5 paisas per kilometer. Whereas for motorway, where there is concession agreement, it is 2 rupees and 10 paisas, which is, when you compare in dollar terms, it is less than 10 pence. So we require the gap you are seeing. When the toll rates are increased, as you have very rightly mentioned, that most of the amount for road maintenance account is coming from toll. We have developed the GIS system, and now we are collecting more and more funds from our ROW amenities and other facilities also. But the toll has to be increased every now and then, based on the economic surveys and based on the economic condition of the country. If the escalation rates or the consumer price index shows that there is an increase of 8% or 12%, so you have to increase in that line the toll rates also. But what the problem is with our system, that we have not increased the toll rate since 2014. And that is creating the gap. Otherwise, if you see that slide, we have reduced the entire thing and we were going smoothly. However, due to non-increase in the toll rates, there is a increasing gap.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Haider. Any questions from other participants at this stage? Comments? Thomas, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, thank you, Serge. I also wanted to thank the participants and the presenters for I can turn on my video. For very informative presentations, and similar to you, Serge, I also learned a lot and would have several questions on it. But what I wanted to highlight was one slide. I forgot the sequence, but in the presentation from Georgia, you had a slide showing the absolute asset value of your road system, right? And I find this very interesting, but at some point I researched how to determine that, and I would be very interested in learning more. If you have a report on this, I'd be very interested, because I mean, putting the value of your road system, your road network in monetary terms, and displaying the magnitude of how much that is a part of a country's GDP is a very valuable argument to make the case for, let's say, maintenance allocations, the need for the tools for road asset management and planning, because it is one of the key assets in a country's economy. So that's a statement. I found it very valuable, very interesting. And if you have any information to share on that, I would very much appreciate. Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. Shuhrab Piorkubzoda, I see your hand is raised. Tajikistan.
Yes, please. Yes, if I may. Well, I have a few questions. As a matter of fact, first of all, regarding the toll roads. And thanks for the presentation by our colleagues from Pakistan. So I would like to ask our colleagues from Pakistan regarding the toll roads. Are they mostly used on alternative roads? And this is the first question of mine. And the second question of mine is regarding the data collection. What equipment do you use to collect data? And the third one refers to the RAMS system. Do you use the off-the-shelf solutions, or have you designed the RAMS system of your own? Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you, Shuhrab. Mr. Haider, perhaps you can respond, and maybe Georgi, you can also explain on certain aspects for Georgia as well. Mr. Haider.
Sorry, I missed the question. If you can repeat it.
Maybe let me repeat it. So from Tajikistan, they're asking about the toll roads, whether these are alternative routes as implemented in some countries, that tolls can also only be implemented on if there's an alternative route without tolling. And there's two further questions about the equipment that you use for data collection for the RAMs, and whether the RAMs itself, the software, is off-the-shelf software or custom-made.
Right, sir. So first of all, the toll roads are motorways and national highways with major traffic, and where the alternate free access links are available. Because on the provincial links, the short links are available where there is no toll, so you can toll all the roads. And secondly, the practice is that we toll only those roads which are in good condition, not the bad condition roads. And lesser traffic volume roads are also not tolled, because the tolling itself costs a lot. So it will not be sustainable to have toll roads, toll imposed on those roads where traffic number is very less. And in developing areas or underdeveloped areas, we don't toll the roads. So these are few conditions of tolling. Now coming to the equipment, we have been using a CAREC scanner we are purchasing that. We have got HWD, and previously we had FWD for structural evaluation. We have profilometer, 13 laser profilometer of Greenwood. We have previously we had a bump integrator, and we have used that. And we have been using DPC testing, and but now we are using all these equipment. We are under process of procuring crack scanner also to measure the cracks in the pavement. So then all the complete pavement can be measured mechanically without human intervention.
And maybe the last question on the RAM software.
RAM software, sir, we have got different components. For BMS, we have got our own software. For GIS, we have got our own software. For payment condition data collection, the database is a different database management system. Whereas for payment evaluation, we use for prioritization modeling, we use HTM4. So the HTM4 is one off-the-shelf system which we are using. The rest is our own prepared softwares and databases.
Thank you. Maybe, Georgi, it's useful if you can also answer the last two questions about the data collection equipment and the RAM software, and maybe also discuss the plans that you have about expanding in these areas.
Sure, Stairs, thank you. I think the one question from Thomas that he directed to Georgia was about the road asset value, the slide that we discussed. So it was done using the World Bank model, RONET. It's a quite straightforward, simple model built on Excel file. It is using the concept that for the asset value, it is always really hard to have sufficient data. So it is not as accurate as it could be, but it still provides a good rough estimation for the asset value. Should I address further the equipment part, sir?
Yes, please.
So right now we are using the ROMDAS system. This is the equipment developed by it's a New Zealand company. When we implemented the IRAP, we actually used the same system because the timing was very good when the ROMDAS system received the accreditation from the IRAP. So we didn't have to use a separate system for the IRAP survey. So for the field data, this is the only one we use. Other part would be just the traffic counters that we use to measure the traffic.
And maybe just to, if I'm correct, the roads department in Georgia is planning to purchase additional equipment for the automated surface distress data collection. And I believe you were also talking about a road scanner or laser scanner. Is that
Yes,
still
yes.
in the plans?
Yeah, there's two items that we plan to. This is not like a separate purchase. This will be the upgrade of the existing system. One would be the crack detection system, and the second one would be the ground penetrating radar. However, we kind of delaying this process a bit, and then I'll give you background what is the reason. On the market, as you know, there's a lot of companies initiated the AI models for the ramps, which basically use the video data to give you the surface distress data. Some of them even aim to produce the payment condition index based on the video logs. And this is actually has a potential to be much cheaper than, for instance, the upgrading of the LCMS, which is quite costly in comparison with what we are using now. And recently, the company that the equipment we have, Romdas, they also contacted us, other clients, and they wanted to hear what expectations we would have from such model. And what we are looking forward to would be the AI that could model, for instance, the traffic signs, road surface distress data, road markings, etc. And they already started to work on this as a part of their software. So we are going to see what the progress will be done. There are already existing other companies, and there's some mobile applications, but they are required manually working on the area to produce the distress data from the AI. But we yet to have to see the high-speed data provided by AI or from the equipment that is on the vehicle and moving fast. So we kind of want to see the potential, how it can work. And this is one of the reasons why we are kind of waiting for this process before we decide to purchase the LCMS, because this is quite related to quite high costs.
Okay, and maybe just the last one before I move to other questions. I think it's interesting what Georgia has done in terms of software that you use, because you use off-the-shelf software for basically everything. Maybe you can explain that to the representatives from Tajikistan as well.
Yeah, sure. So basically, all the software that we use are off-the-shelf software like SRI GIS and HTM4, some data processing applications, even the Microsoft Excel is quite useful, of course. The one big challenge, and it is like same for each country, because I have worked in Moldova and they had the same issue with the data. That when you have the network level data and you want to make a multi-year plan, you cannot put it in the HTM4 automatically. And if you don't have this link automated, then basically you cannot do the program analysis, because you have to have a homogeneous sections and all the data related to it. For instance, in case of Georgia, for the 7,000 kilometers, if you were to do it manually, you have to at least model 1,200 individual sections to fully represent the model in the HTM4 for proper life cycle analysis, right? Because you don't model only the sections in bad condition, you need also the good condition to see what would be life cycle costs during the 10 years. So you have to have a full network. So when we made the first program, we took a very simple approach. We used the Microsoft Excel and prepared a simple code on VBS that would take the raw database in the Excel and build the homogeneous sections for you. So this was the initial step, what helped us then to import the data into the HTM4, where you already have the road network and you don't have to like model them manually. But after some years, we upgraded the algorithm, so it's not based on Excel right now. It uses this MDB data file, same as the HTM4, and with specific inputs like you define minimum and maximum, the lengths of the homogeneous sections, etc. And it builds a homogeneous network for you in MDB format, which you can finalize and import it to the HTM4. So this was the key for us. Otherwise, we would never be able to reproduce the multi-year plan every year on a steady basis.
Thank you, Georgi. Let me move on to the next hand I see from Michael Anyala. Please go ahead, Michael.
Thank you, Sarge. Firstly, I really like to thank all the countries for this very informative session and discussion. It's really brilliant. I was really pleased to see that particularly Pakistan and Georgia have made such progress in asset management to the extent that you're actually now looking at how can you better manage the externalities from transport? So in Pakistan, I understand that you have integrated road safety already through IRAP within your asset management system. This is really great. And then Georgia is also looking at how best to do that. So my question is whether you have also thought about, for example, how best can you address climate change as part of asset management? So we know that roads, is a big emitter of greenhouse gas emissions, for example. Have you thought about factoring that in within the way in which you manage your assets? Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Maybe we can ask Mr. Haider to respond first.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, as we are using HTM4 model version 2, from version 3.5 onwards, the environmental aspects and social aspects are also covered in the assessments. So the data collection is carried out based on that, and that is part of the system that where and how effective the social and environmental aspects are taken care of. So that also give prioritization to certain road sections while considering how maintenance and different strategies are planned. And secondly, in our system, sorry, I have been unable to show all the things which we do in our annual maintenance plan. One of the aspects is forestation, which is taken care on our road within our ROW plantation of different species in the ROW, keeping reducing the sound level, reducing the pollution, controlling the pollution, waste stations and other things. So all these things are part of the assessment which we carry out, and certain rating is assigned in our system.
Thank you, Mr. Haider. Georgi, do you want to add anything to that from Georgia's side?
Yes, sure. Thank you. So for the Georgia, we had looked into this issue several years ago in one of the projects financed by the World Bank. And the idea was to have a pilot study what can be done to integrate the climate resilience in the annual planning. And the key and the biggest challenge we found out was the lack of data, because for the proper climate resilience planning, you have to have extensive historical data, or you have to have a very, very costly field studies. So because of lack of them, the only option that we decided that we could go through was that we have developed like a simple data forms for the very rough assessment of the area. That, for instance, you go on the area, you discuss with the local population, municipality, maintenance contractors, all of them that can potentially provide the input data that is lacking so much on a higher level. So we call it, I forgot the exact name, it's kind of a quick assessment form that was done we tested it in one region. It does give data, for instance, on flooding and landslides, and then we combined it with our GIS data, and that's it. However, I would not say that this is already a integrated part of the planning. Currently, what is integrated is mostly the letters from the municipalities. So information just comes to the department from each region and sub-municipality, and then engineers here are considering it. So it's not a systematic part of the process, and we don't really have done this kind of assessment for all Georgia. We piloted it in one region only.
Thank you, Georgi. I see another hand raised from Mr. Jalil. You have a question or comment?
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Am I hearable?
Yes, we hear you.
I'm here from Pakistan, the province Balochistan. We have got an road management unit here set up. It was set up in late in 1997, and then it was refunctionalized in 2007 by the ADP with ROMDAS equipments, and complete setup was there. But unfortunately, it was not properly functional, and after 2010, it was abandoned again. No doubt that Mr. Ikramul Saklan, if I am not wrong, from NHA they have done a domestic, I think, a good job from NHA side. But my question is that how, what are their plans for improving their maintenance strategies for provincial level and for the domestic roads and for the district roads? For NHA level, they have done a good job, but for regional level or the lower level, what are their plans, or what are their strategies for improving the road maintenance strategies for the provincial level, sir? Thank you very much, and I am very much grateful that you have heard me and I have been a part of this.
Thank you, Mr. Jalil. Mr. Haider, your response, please.
As mentioned in my presentation, we are National Highway Authority is custodian of 500 odd kilometers of road network, whereas overall road network in Pakistan is about 492,000 kilometers. So
Mr. Saklan?
Sorry, Mr. Haider, the connection is frozen. Maybe let me move to Mr. Akhtar while we wait for Mr. Haider's connection to restate.
Thanks for providing. I just want to respond to Mr. Abdul Jalil from Balochistan. Yeah, he's rightly mentioned, of course, at the federal level, where the national network is under the National Highway Authority, and right back since many years, I think right back 20 years, they have initiated their road asset management systems, and then now they have reached to this stage. But unfortunately for the provinces, as already Abdul Jalil Saab mentioned, there were several times it was tried to introduce road management systems within the CLW department. We call it the Communication and Works Department of Provinces, where they are being a custodian of thousands of kilometers of roads. But the sustainability is always remain a question there. And it's only due to the commercialization, because as far as the NHA is concerned, they are getting sufficient support or sufficient funding from the direct road, from the toll. But in the provinces where the provincial roads are there, one thing is there is always be a alternative, means the alternate problems there, and then also the question of tolling there. It's always be resistance from the locals and from the users to impose certain toll on their network, and also be a quality of the service, because on the provincial roads it's always be assumed that they be lower side of these standards and specifications, so there's really no justification of putting any toll on that roads. So it's very clear. Yes, Jalil has already been mentioned that the second tier we always be the donors, especially with the Asian Development Bank under a certain program. We have again tried to enhance the capacity of the provincial road departments, especially in the biggest province of Punjab. There's good some achievements be achieved where they have introduced their systems there, but still the efforts are there, and we want, and especially we always be seeking assistance from the donor side, and even from this forum of CAREC, we will want certain assistance for our provincial road department, where they want to be enhanced and where they want to introduce such systems of road asset management system. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Akhtar. One final response from Mr. Akram.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sarj. I would like to respond on the behalf of CNW Punjab, as Mr. Hamid was rightly pointed that CNW departments of the provinces are responsible for the thousands of kilometers of road network. So in Punjab, approximately we are dealing with around 80,000 kilometers of road network, a huge road network, even more than the NHA. So the RAMs has been introduced in CNW department Punjab from 2017. And in 3 years, we have been able to engage with a consultant who was initially supposed to carry out a pilot survey, as all the participants who presented their country rightly pointed that they were started initially from the pilot survey. So we were also supposed to carry out a pilot survey first, and then we are now at the stage that we are spreading that road network model and the road asset management system to the whole network of the Punjab. I mean the 80,000 road kilometers. So up till now, we have also purchased an equipment, fast falling wave deflectometer, to carry out the condition survey. And we are engaging the consultants for the initial data collection, data management, and then establishing a proper data analysis system in the CNW network in Punjab. So this is the update for the province of Punjab CNW department. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Akram. We are slowly reaching the end of the time. I just wanted to include one more question for Tajikistan, for the Ministry of Transport there, because one of the things that I find very interesting from Tajikistan is that as the only country in the CAREC region, they have actually issued a RAMS action program. So this is a program that defines different steps in RAMS development over the next 5 years. And they've issued this through a presidential decree in the end of 2019. And my question to them, to the ministry, is whether you find that this RAMS action program is helping you in the development of the RAMS and your coordination with the development partners, or whether it also has disadvantages for you.
Thank you for the question. Yes, of course. After the approval of this program, we're now working with all the partners. We do have some progress. We do have some success. Indeed, we still have a lot of things that we need to complete under the program, but this program is very helpful for the implementation of the road asset management system. If I may, I have a question to our colleagues from the Road Fund, or about the Road Fund. I'd like to find out what are the sources that form this Road Fund of our colleagues from Pakistan. This has been implemented already, and I'd like to find out what are the sources of financing for this Road Fund.
Thank you, Shukro.
Thank you.
Mr. Haider.
Yes.
Mr.
You please allow.
Akhtar.
Yeah, I will respond. Yes, sir. It's rightly mentioned this. In the early stage, there was a concept for the road fund there we have introduced in the country. At the country level, we want to introduce the road fund, and where the major sources, what at that time proposed were like a lab on the use of fuel like that. But that idea couldn't be matured mainly because of the federation system there. There were provinces and the third tiers also of government there. So it's not been possible for the federal government to levy a direct tax or some for the road management or ramps there for the road. So the consolidated road fund concept was dropped and it's never been matured. But anyhow, the National Highway Authority itself maintained a road asset account. It's called a road management account, where they have a different sources on their network from direct toll, and the other charges also they've been charging from the right-of-way services, like providing access to the commercial sites and like the other, so many sources are there. From there, they are getting the fund. But the concept of the consolidated road fund is still be not existed in our country.
Maybe just an additional question to that. I think all the sources of revenue that go to the road maintenance account are collected by NHA. Is that correct? National Highway
Yes,
Authority.
this is right. Yeah, NHA is directly responsible for collecting not only the toll, but other sources also.
Yeah. Does that answer your question, Mr. Yakubzoda?
Спасибо.
Yes, thank you.
Any final questions before we hand back to Rika? In that case, thank you very much for the interesting questions and the interesting responses. Rika, let me hand back to you.
Thank you very much, Joe. And then thank you very much, our participants. Quite insightful discussion. The session will give us a lot of takeaways for our future program, the RAMP. So I'd like to invite Mr. Michael Anyara, Senior Road Asset Management Specialist, ADB. He will give the closing remarks for this event. Michael, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rika. So let me start by saying that it gives me great pleasure to provide these closing remarks for this very interesting session. Allow me first to convey special thanks to all those who made this event possible, particularly the country representatives. All the presentations we had today have been very informative and they were very well delivered. I'd like to extend thanks and appreciation to all the speakers for sharing with us all their knowledge and expertise on road asset management and road asset management systems in your countries. Allow me also to recognize and thank all the participants for your dedication and active engagement during the event. I hope that the many lessons and ideas shared today will help your efforts to continue improving road asset management outcomes in your countries. The presentations from all three countries today emphasized the point that roads continue to be the dominant mode of transport for freight and passengers in your countries as well as in ADB's client countries. This therefore means that roads continues to play a very central role in the economic development of countries and the region as a whole. Within ADB, we continue to receive strong demand from you and from other countries for road project assistance. So just to provide some context, looking forward, our road investment pipeline up to 2022 totals about US dollars 6.4 billion. So this is a very healthy pipeline, which really shows still that there's a strong demand to invest in roads. Whereas we're seeing strong demand for constructions of roads, it's however important to note that infrastructure investments have to be sustainable over their life cycle if the benefits from these investments are to materialize over the investment period. Sustainability of infrastructure projects is a major concern for ADB. And this issue is often raised by our board when we take projects for approval. A recent evaluation by the ADB's Independent Evaluation Department revealed that 60% of ADB's infrastructure investments over the past 5 years are rated as less than likely sustainable. So this includes roads, water investments, and other infrastructure investments together. So 60% of them. So this means that the benefits that were assumed during the project preparations for these investments are considered to be lower than what will actually be achieved at the life cycle of these investments. And then when we drill down to these figures, it is very clear to us that transport, and specifically roads, contribute the most to the proportions of ADB infrastructure investments with poor sustainability rating. And these are due to many factors, including inadequate planning, budgeting, and low revenue generation from the investments. Often weak institutions and adequate governance structures are a concern. We are also beginning to see increasing volume of aging infrastructure and maintenance backlogs, like some of you presented today. And there's also an increasing need to tackle the externalities from transport. So issues like addressing road safety and also tackling climate change through adapting our infrastructures, as well as mitigating the greenhouse gas emissions from transport. So many of these challenges were discussed by yourselves today, and a number of solutions were suggested. For example, we heard from Georgia and Pakistan that they're implementing IRAP as a way of providing, good evidence base that can then be used to address road safety at scale. So this is very encouraging direction. We also heard how Tajikistan is looking at alternative options for increasing funding for road asset management. Improving asset management is therefore a very important priority of ADB. And establishing and sustaining a functioning road asset management system is really essential, because this provides the data that can inform decisions. It provides the tool that can be used to analyze and inform policies that can provide better asset management. Therefore, I hope that this knowledge exchange has provided you with some good ideas on how you can continue to improve the maturity of asset management systems in your countries. In closing, I would like to note that all 3 countries participating today and many other of our client countries already have large road networks. And while demand for constructions of new roads will continue in some countries, our expectation and analysis is that in the coming years, we will start to see a shift in demand from our clients for asset management support, for tackling climate change, for addressing other issues like road safety. ADB is committed through our strategy 2030 to continue to work with you and other partners on these issues. Please reach out to ADB project teams or resident missions in your countries if you would like to discuss any future assistance in these areas and any other areas that are of interest to you. I would like to thank all of you once again for participating in this knowledge event. Thank you all, and back to you, Rika.
Thank you very much, Michael, for your closing remarks. So once again, so meeting is now closing. Thank you very much again for all participants to stay with us for 3 hours. Relatively long, but I really appreciate that more than 20 people still stay with us and run each other regarding the road asset management system, which is our common and immediate challenge. We look forward to continue work together with all of you. Before we close this session, before we close this workshop, I would like to announce the one thing. After this workshop, hopefully by tomorrow morning in your local time, we will send you the 2 links. One link is the Dropbox containing the old slide in English and Russian. Since we are really focusing on each country presentation, you might miss something other, or you might want to see again the other countries' slide. So please find our email and then access the Dropbox so that you can find 5 presentations, Thomas' slide, and then 3 countries presentations. So please find the Dropbox link. And then the same email, we will include questionnaire survey link, which is already automatically generated to the Microsoft. We highly appreciate if you kindly spend your valuable 2-3 minutes. The questionnaire is not really long, and for our further improvement of this kind of event designing the organization. So thank you very much again, and good afternoon and good evening. So meeting is over. Thank you.
Thank you, Rika. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Lastly, thank you very much, Mr. Eugenie and Mr. Rustam, to help our conversation. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Rika-san. That was great.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.